Welcome to Dare, the show for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders who dare to shape the future. Your hosts today are Ned Hayes and Cecilia Mariani. Dare is brought to you by Darwaf, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. The Dare podcast is excited to welcome Shahar Botzer. He's the founder of GCVC. He's also been a managing partner at another venture capital firm. He's an Israeli investor, and he's been working with seasoned teams around the world for a number of years. He is an investor, founder, and changemaker. We're happy to welcome him here. Welcome to the show, Shahar.
Hey, Ned, thank you for having me.
So tell us about your investment team at Good Company, at GC.
So Good Company is a fund we started. I co-founded the fund with Ido Fischler, my partner. In the team, we also have Arno and Nick. We exist for 4 years. We're now investing from our second fund. The first fund, we started to invest from our own money. Actually did the first closing in the mid of 2021. Had 13 companies in that fund. And now we're investing from our second fund. And our investment thesis is investing in mission-driven founders. Mission-driven for us means founders who are trying to solve humanity's biggest problems around climate, healthcare, and education. So that's most of our focus. In those spaces, we are very proactive. So we can speak about it later, but we have like a reverse engineering mindset, trying to understand the problems very deeply and then go and proactively look for Israeli founders who are trying to solve it globally. But we do also invest in other spaces that we feel tackles the world's biggest problems.
Right. So it's really interesting that you're investing for the world's biggest problems. Why invest there? And maybe this is a leading question, but why do you care about that?
So I must say that personally, I was always I always saw myself as a change maker. So I have a disability, and at the age of 13, I filed an appeal to the Supreme Court in Israel, asking the state to make the school and the city where I lived in accessible, which was not obvious in Israel in those times. And there's a legal precedent on my name. It was a few years of social struggle until I got it. And actually, the rights for people with disabilities in Israel is based on that case study. And
wow,
I think
congratulations. So you changed the law to make it possible for people to have equal rights there, huh?
Yeah, for people with disabilities. And actually that really, I believe it really changed like my being and my perspective on the world. And I did a few other things, a few micro careers in the social sector, and then in the outsource space and tourism space. And in 2014, I found a way to combine my passion and what I believe is my talent, which is investing and being a mentor to founders and working with them in the early stage. And I think that this is the most exciting spaces, first of all, from the mission perspective, but actually it's a business decision. Because when you invest in problems like food prices, agriculture, renewable energy, digital health, and education, you invest in spaces that is one, it's massive problems that humanity is going to deal with for the next decades. Two, it's problems that are more resilient in downturns. And we proved that very well in 2023, that all of our portfolio continued to grow. And three, we believe that at the end of the day, most of the startups that don't succeed, it's because in some point the founder or the founders or one of them, when it was hard, decided that they want to stop. And founders who are more resilient have more chances to succeed. And mission-driven founders that chose a specific problem because they're extremely passionate about it and they see it as their life journey, they are more likely to be resilient. So for us as a pre-seed and seed investors, it's a metric for success.
So having that passion, having that mission-driven quotient to their equation is super important.
Definitely.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, so I haven't run across a lot of investors who see mission-driven as one of their criteria. So that's really fascinating. So tell us about some of your most passionate investments. Tell us about some of your founders. Who has really moved the needle for you?
So we have a few. It's quite hard to speak on a specific company because they're all we feel them like our children. we care about them. But I can give a few examples of the ones who are more far ahead. Let's say the earliest investment. So one of them is Bee Hero, which is a company that save bees. And by
Mm-hmm.
saving bees, they put sensors in beehives, and they have the largest data about bees in the world, and they know how to make sure that the beekeeper knows to handle the right place and the right time, give them also the relevant advices, and they actually sell pollination as a service. So they are already the biggest pollination provider in the US, now starting to work also in Australia and other places globally. And that's like one of the massive problems for humanity in terms of food supply. So that's one example. Another example is a company in the education space called Jot It, which is
Mm-hmm.
an operating system for schools that allows a student to use a Chromebook, or it can be an iPad, or any machine that you can write on with a pen, electronic pen, and then the student in the preschool can come only with this machine. He doesn't need notebooks, his books, his worksheets, everything is in one place. Another investment I can mention is Tulu that creates in big buildings in big cities globally, US and Europe, a panel with all the amenities that you used to own. So let's say toolbox, printer, vacuum cleaner, everything that you used to keep in your storage in your small apartment, but now you can use it and pay by the hour. So it's like a circle economy solution for big cities. We have a company called Marine Edge that knows how to identify the patterns of the waves and make cargo ships a hybrid, so they can charge the ship while it goes down from a wave and use the electricity for the next wave to lower the fuel consumption by 10%, which
Mm-hmm.
is a massive financial and environmental impact. So those kind of solutions that I don't really need to explain to you what is the impact and how will we measure it, because the impact is embedded in the business model. So all we
Mm-hmm.
need to do is measure the ARR, the sales.
Yeah.
It's kind of a single bottom line approach.
Right. So I'm curious, you've invested in these companies, they have a mission driven approach, they're making a difference in the world. What does the exit look like? What's a successful company that's exited after your investment?
So actually, we are only 4 years since we started, even less, 3.5 years.
Okay.
So exited is a bit early. We do have one company that we sold our possession there and did good outcome, like 20x on our investment in a company called Healthy, health navigation system for employees in the US. So you can write, I have a back pain, what am I covered for? Or my son have a toothache, and it takes you the whole journey until setting the appointment, making employees more healthy, and also giving insights to the CFO, what medical insurance coverage are you paying for and nobody is using during the year. And also the opposite. So we invested in a $5 million evaluation. We were the first check in the company, and we saw that they did now a very big round, an evaluation of over 100 million. And we exited because we're a small fund and we could be agile.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it seems like you've been really able to help companies get off the ground. I noticed on some of the testimonials, one or two founders say that they want good company to be their first check, or, they make the advice that this should be your first check. Why is that? Why do people turn to you as a first check versus other companies or other investors?
First of all, I think the fact that Ido and myself are founders for a fund and other stuff we founded in the past, and we are very founder-like minded, and we understand the struggle of constantly fundraising and building your business as you fly. It's a part of it. We're really working shoulder to shoulder with them, and we have 100% of our portfolio that we brought them follow-on investors in their specific field. And second of all, I think the way we operate is that we have partnership with 32 multinational corporates in the
Mm-hmm.
areas where we invest. So usually when we meet a founder, we are very educated about the market and about the problem that he's solving. So I think we created a place or a house which is extremely relevant in the 0 to 1, let's say, team with a beta version of the product that want to do the product market fit journey and get to the first $1 million and find relevant investors in the US. I think we are the go-to place in Israel.
Got it. Okay. Well, since you've worked with so many companies, do you have any advice for early stage companies that are seeking investment? Like when they're starting out and maybe these founders haven't really raised before, what advice would you give a company other than being mission driven? Because I know that's going to be your first piece of advice. Like make sure that you actually care passionately about your mission. What other kinds of advice would you have?
So if we're talking specifically about fundraising, I think you should do your homework very good and choose very smartly the kind and the relevant investor that you're seeking.
Mm-hmm.
So, look at their portfolio, look at their LinkedIn, understand who did they invest in, do your reference calls, act like it's a strategic customer. Many of the founders, if they're seeking for a strategic partner, they will do their homework very well. And when they approach investors, they come in a spread and pray approach, which I think it's a waste of time, first of all, because they're taking many meetings they don't need to take. Second of all, in this process, you also can get a lot of advices, which comes in a very, let's say, not with question marks that can really confuse you as a CEO. And I think that they're getting the wrong advices from so many people at once can be very toxic. So that's the approach that I'm trying to do with founders that I'm working on, and also building the relationship very early. So as soon as we invested, we are already doing the work on deciding who is our wish list for next round and how do we create the relationships, the personal relationships ahead of time. The other advice is more from the perspective of the operations of the business and actually doing the job. And I think is understanding what is your North Star KPI, what is the fundable KPI for next round that you're working on, and making sure everyone in the company knows it and everyone are aligned that this is the KPI that we're working on.
Got it. So making sure your people are actually aligned on the same goals, that's key. Yeah. So one thing that I found really interesting is that a number of startup founders are now chasing AI or a variety of different kinds of, AI things. And I'm just curious from your perspective as an investment partner, do you see this as really useful or do you see it as short-sighted or something in between?
So I think definitely now, like the flu in the ecosystem of tech investment right now is AI based companies that are using a generative AI for a specific market. I think it is relevant and interesting in some cases. I think it's very easy. It's very hard to create a defensible investment there because it became so easy to create it and to approach the market and to get the first results that it's many times it's more like betting on the team and their ability to execute more than having like a defendable technology.
Right, right.
Um,
I think sometimes we call that building a moat, right? Having something defensible, having a moat around your technology or your approach makes it harder for other people to enter the market. And what you're saying with AI systems is it's so easy, there's very little that's defensible, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, I think there are spaces that for us, for example, in digital health, we have a few in our thesis, a few areas that we think that having, once you get to have enough data, you can be defendable just because you became like your specific model already have like competitive advantage, but you need to be very quick in the market and like market grabbing and making sure you fundraise enough. And I definitely think that we have an advantage coming from the problem and seeing the technology as a mean to an end and not saying that we are now looking for AI as a fund, because I believe that this is very confusing.
Right. So just saying you're looking for AI is kind of like saying we're looking for people who work with computers. It's like, how is that
Definitely.
useful?
And you know that every like 3 or 4 years, there's a new trend, right?
Right. It was the metaverse, it was a blockchain, it's some sort of technology. But as I think you and I would both agree, technology is not going to save us. People with smart ideas, maybe using some technology can, right?
Exactly. Technology is a way to solve problems on scale. And you need to first understand what, at least my perspective, I'm coming from business. I learned accounting. I manage and was CEO of few companies. So I always look at it first from the business perspective. Who will pay for it? What the paying right now, how much is it costing him? Is it his number one issue that he's now dealing with? Is he actively looking for solutions? And then, okay, let's understand if the solution that we chose, technology wise, is the best one in order to solve it. And I think sometimes the startups are, like my partner likes to call it, Ido likes to call it solution looking for a problem.
Absolutely. Solution looking for a problem. Right, right. Like you have a hammer, so there must be some nails out there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, so as you look at trends in the marketplace, maybe beyond AI or including AI, what sort of trends are you looking at that you're hoping to track to and perhaps make some investments in? I'm thinking especially about our audience of startup leaders. If they have one of these, maybe they should approach you. So, what areas are you interested in on a specific level?
So again, we are looking at it more from the problem perspective. So
Yeah.
we are saying like shortage of human labor in health and in farming and agriculture is a massive problem that humanity is facing. Living at home in old age and all like silver tech issues in terms of like financial and safety and etc. is a massive problem that we are looking at. So this is like the kind of perspective that we are looking at, not the technology perspective, but trying to understand to imagine the future in the next 15 to 20 years, understand where are the massive gaps in managing the data and the grid of renewable energy, and then trying to look for the best solutions and startups and teams that have creative ideas how to tackle those problems.
Got it. Okay. So thank you so much. So if people have some ideas that really do change things, then you're a good investment for that. So one other question that I'll ask that hopefully is not too uncomfortable is that VCs actually invest for a return, right? So hopefully they want to see their money back. Your investors, because VCs take investments from other people. That's how you do it. The goal is to make your money back and then some. So, how do you manage that set of expectations of making your money back along with making the world a better place?
So that's why I explained that unlike, let's say, impact funds that usually have two metrics, so they have the metrics for the impact and the metrics for the financial outcome or the ROI, we invest only in startups that their only way to make money and scale is to solve a problem. And we're not, while we're working with the founders, we're only focused on the business side. A good company is a fund that plans to be one of the best funds in Israel and globally. We are targeting at least 3x on the money, just like any other VC. And we have no compromise. Like our perspective, especially that I came from being an impact investor before and being a managing partner in a different fund that looked at things a bit differently. I learned, by mistakes, although I did quite well, but I also did a bunch of mistakes, is that the fact that I'm looking to create a positive impact on the world is not an excuse for bad business. It's the opposite, because I'm bringing money to the table and I need to prove our proof of concept is that by focusing on the world's biggest problems, we can actually generate the highest returns. So we believe that if Be Hero, or let's say when Be Hero, will be the largest pollination provider in the world by saving bees, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar company that's going to create massive returns for our investors. So that's the approach.
Right. So it's a combination. One side feeds the other in terms of the passion
Yeah,
and
definitely. And
world.
also, there is no way to actually move the needle and solve those kind of problems without being a massive company that works in scale. So that's the passion, to create those kind of global companies.
Yeah, and just for our audience, when we say go to scale, we're doing something that is not small and that is not manually done, but can be done with many thousands of participants and can be automated to a degree that you can replicate that success over and over again. Is that fair summary?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Well, as our last question today, what do you dare to dream?
What do I dare to dream? So actually, when we started Good Company, we tried to think on what is our goal. Like we want to do at least 3x on the money. That's a proof of concept. But we also have the partnership part that we are working with multinational corporates. And what is our common goal together? That when we work together with all of our partners, and I dare to dream, we dare to dream, is that Israel will be more than 50%, hopefully 70% of the new startups will be mission driven, which means will be around climate issues, health issues, and education. We want to be a place that creates technologies that solve humanity's biggest problems and share light. And also, I feel is that every entrepreneur that I meet, and today in Israel, many second timers and very experienced business people decide to do things in those spaces. And that makes me every time very excited. Because at the end of the day, people take a risk, they start a new business, they take all their time, all their talent, all their network, and decide to do something. And if they decide to do like a offensive cyber, e-commerce, fintech company, it always makes me sad. That's what they choose to do with their life. And if someone decided what he wants to do is to make service providers more efficient or solve the problems for human labor in farming, that always makes me very proud of what we're taking a part doing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your investment thesis and your insights into how startups can be successful with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Thanks to our guests today for their great insights on Dare, the podcast for innovators, entrepreneurs, and startup leaders. If you'd like your story to be featured on Dare, just contact us at info@darwaft.com. Dare is brought to you by Darwaft, the tech team that can make your vision a reality.